So I thought this week I'd do one of my deep dive videos, but this time covering the pentatonic scale. Now, even if you already know the pentatonic scale, you may find that some of the concepts that I talk about here are new ideas too, so it's worth sticking through this to the end. The other thing I've done is I've created a PDF which you can just download, the links in the description field, and that covers all of the positions, and it covers all of the structures and the note functions that I talk about in this video. So you may find that useful as well. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from first principles. I'll start with the first pentatonic shape. I'll point out some underlying structure within the pentatonic scale itself. Within each of the positions, there are some fundamental structures within the shape that you can use. And then we'll start using those structures to be able to orientate ourselves on the neck, so you'll be able to play in any key, in any position, and then we could talk about how this affects playing licks and things, how you'd move licks to different positions on the neck as well. So let's start with the underlying structure. Okay, so it's worth understanding the underlying structure of these scales, even if you already know them inside out, because I'm going to be using these ideas later. And you'll be able to use this structure as kind of landmarks in order to do some of the exercises later on in this video. But let's start with the basics. So the first position of the pentatonic scale looks like this. Hopefully you already know that. But really what I want to draw your attention to is two boxes that are contained in here. The first one is this one. So this is between the E and the B string. So two strings, and the notes within them are a tone and a half apart, or a minor third. And then below that we've got three strings, and each of the notes on each of the strings are a tone apart. And the thing I want you to be aware of is that every pentatonic scale shape contains both of those boxes. And both of those boxes are basically just stacked on top of each other. So, for example, this last two notes on the low string can be thought of as a repeat of that first box again. And actually, if I had a 7-string guitar, the 7th string would look just like the B string. So it would just be that box repeated. And if I had more and more strings, the strings below that would repeat that second box. So you'd have 3 strings which are a tone apart. Now this shape occurs everywhere on the neck. In all 5 positions you'll see these two boxes just stacked one on top of each other. So for example, if I move to the next position up, you can see that first box just there, and then above that you've got the second box. Now this second position introduces one final concept here, and this is caused because of the tuning of the guitar. If you remember, the guitar's tuned so that all the strings are tuned a perfect 4th apart, so you tune on the 5th fret, apart from the G to B string, which is tuned a major 3rd, so you tune on the 4th string and then back to the 5th string. The effect of this 1 string difference in the tuning means that all of the shapes are going to have a 1 fret offset when you move between the G and the B string. So if you account for that, you'll find that every position uses this same pattern of, the first form and then the second form. And below this first form is the second form again, starting, so you can see the first string of a group of 3 strings which are a tone apart. Or if you move to the next position up, you can see that group of 3 strings, and then there's the first form again with that stagger because we're going between the G and the B string. And I could keep going all the way up. I mean, check the PDF out and have a look at each of the shapes and you'll see what I mean. The other thing to be aware of is horizontally how these patterns are laid out. So if we look at that second pattern first, the 3 strings separated by a tone. If you move up a position, you can start that 3-string pattern again. And move down, and then move down down again. And if I had more strings, I'd be able to keep that playing. So you can see how this 3-string pattern is kind of staggered. It's like a stair shape going up the neck. So everywhere you find that pattern, you know where the next pattern is on the position up or a position down. Similarly, if you have a look at that first pattern and we move down, you can see you move across one set of strings and down a shape. Across one set of strings and down a shape. Yeah? And again, everywhere you see that pattern, you can use this staggered shape. And if you want to move this way, you jump over a string. Okay? And then, starting from here, above this pattern is that 3-string pattern. The top 2 strings of that 3-string pattern. And below this is the bottom 2 strings of that 3-string pattern. So hopefully you can see inside the pentatonic scale, in all of the positions, there's some real structure there. Okay, so hopefully you can see clearly there's an underlying structure within the pentatonic scale across all of the positions. So let's see how we can take advantage of that. Okay, so probably the most important insight to these 2 patterns is that these are the same patterns that you find repeated everywhere on the neck, and they're the same patterns because they're the same notes, and that's the important thing. So wherever you see that pattern, that first pattern, it's exactly the same note. It may be a different octave, as you can see here, but the notes themselves are exactly the same. And what that means is this first note of that group of 4, so the lower note of the upper string, if you're playing in a minor key, that will be the root. So that's how you find the root, or that's where you place the root in this first pattern. And similarly in the second pattern, the root is always on the middle string. If you're playing the minor pentatonic, it's the upper note of the middle string of that group of 3. So you can easily find the root notes of the minor pentatonic anywhere on the neck by orientating one or the other of those patterns anywhere. And similarly, if you're playing the major pentatonic, the root in this first pattern is always that upper note of this first string, this highest string. So that will always be the root. It's always that upper note. And similarly in the group of 3 notes, it's always the lower note of the highest string when you're playing the major pentatonic. So I can take advantage of that now. I can put my hand anywhere on the neck. Let's say I put it there and I want to play in C sharp minor. Well, I find a C sharp just there, and as it's on the upper note of this group, I can use that second pattern, and I know it's the middle note of the upper string. So I'm playing C sharp minor. I can move my hand here, play in C sharp minor again. Okay, so if I want to play in C sharp minor, there's a C sharp, which means it's on my index finger, so I'll use that first shape. So I can use this insight. I can use the insight that these are always the same notes, which means the root is always in the same place, which means I can put my hand anywhere on the neck and be able to instantly orientate myself and choose the right pentatonic scale to be able to play in the right key wherever I put my hand. The other thing that's useful to note is if that's a root, then all of the other notes must be the same, have the same note functions as well. So if that's a root, then that would be the flat third, there's root again, flat seventh and fifth. So I can start to find all of the other notes. It doesn't matter which scale shape I'm playing, which position. I know if I can spot either of these 2 patterns, then I instantly know what the note functions are. I instantly know where the roots are, where the fifths are, where the flat sevenths are. Okay, so hopefully you can see how you can use that to orientate yourself, how you can use that to find the key that you want to play in, how to choose which scale shape to use in any position. But we can also use this structure when we're playing licks as well. Let me quickly demonstrate. Okay, so I know that each of these shapes contains the same notes. So that means wherever I encounter them, I can play the same licks over them. So if I take that first shape, I know wherever I encounter that shape, I can play exactly the same lick. Yeah, and the same's true with the other shape as well, which means you can take your licks and your ideas and your patterns and you can move them to any one of the 5 other positions, use the same kind of fingering, use the same kinds of bends, emphasize exactly the same notes, because you know in each of the shapes these same patterns contain exactly the same notes, so they have exactly the same note functions. So all of these concepts are covered in the handout that I've created as well, so please download that. That's got all of the positions worked out, it's got these structures laid out in there, it's got the note functions written down in there as well, and it shows you the major and the minor pentatonics in there as well, so check that out. If you're interested and you've not seen them already, I've already done deep dives like this on the major and the minor scales as well, so again, it's going to give you insights into scale positions going up and down the neck and how to use them. Otherwise, we'll chat next time. Goodbye.